All right, today we're diving into an absolutely incredible story of survival against impossible odds. We're talking about a hero so small you could fit hundreds on the head of a pin. A creature that went to the single most hostile environment we know of and came back. Let's get into it.
So let me just ask you something right off the bat. If you had to name the single toughest animal in the universe, what would you pick? A cockroach, maybe? A crocodile? Well, I think this explainer is going to change your mind, because the real answer is probably something you've never even laid eyes on.
So let's meet our contender. It's an animal with a surprisingly adorable nickname, the water bear. Now, its scientific name is the tardigrade. They're these tiny, eight-legged invertebrates that live in water. And when I say tiny, we're talking less than a millimeter long. You can find them pretty much anywhere there's a little bit of moisture, like in moss or on lichens. Honestly, they kind of look like microscopic gummy bears. But don't let their cute little appearance fool you.
Here on Earth, these little guys are practically indestructible. They can survive being almost completely dried out. It's a state called anhydrobiosis, where they basically just shut down all their metabolic processes. They can handle temperatures from near absolute zero to well above boiling. They can withstand pressures that would literally crush a submarine. And they can endure doses of radiation hundreds of times higher than what would be lethal for any of us. So, yeah, we know they're tough. But the real question is, how tough are they really?
Well, to find out, scientists decided to give the tardigrade the ultimate test, a mission right into the void of outer space. So, back in September of 2007, the European Space Agency launched the Photon M3 mission, and on board were these little samples of dried out or desiccated tardigrades. For 10 straight days, these tiny animals orbited the Earth, completely and totally exposed to the harsh environment of space.
And believe me, they didn't get an easy ride. The tardigrades were split into different groups to face a real gauntlet of cosmic horrors. Some were only exposed to the hard vacuum of space. Others had to face the vacuum plus different levels of solar radiation. And then there was one really unlucky group. They were set to get the full, unfiltered blast of everything the sun could possibly throw at them. After 10 days, the samples came back down to Earth. The researchers rehydrated them, and then they just waited. So, how did our microscopic astronauts do? Well, the results were absolutely astonishing. Okay, first question. What about the groups that were only exposed to the vacuum of space, which causes just extreme dehydration? Did they survive? The answer is a massive, resounding yes. But what's really fascinating here is the comparison. On the left, you've got the control group that stayed on Earth, about 95% survival. Pretty good. But on the right, the group that spent 10 days in the raw vacuum of space had a 93% survival rate. The vacuum, one of the deadliest aspects of space, had virtually no effect on. Now, that in itself is amazing. But as the researchers knew all too well, the vacuum was only half the battle. The real killer out there is the radiation. So now look what happened to the group that was exposed to both the vacuum and the full unfiltered solar radiation. Survival absolutely plummeted. Almost every single one of them was killed by the intense UV rays. For a moment there, it really seemed like even the mighty tardigrade had finally met its match. The damage was just catastrophic. I mean, the radiation had shredded their cells and their DNA. For most of them, it was totally fatal. But not for everyone. And this right here is the single most mind-blowing result of the entire experiment. Just three individual tardigrades of the species Milnesium tardigradum survived. Let that sink in for a second. They endured 10 days of hard vacuum and a direct blast of unfiltered solar radiation, were brought back to Earth, rehydrated, and simply crawled away.
This wasn't just a personal victory for the tardigrade. This was a completely groundbreaking record for the entire animal kingdom.
The researchers themselves said it best in their paper, calling it, and I'm quoting here, the first record of an animal surviving simultaneous exposure to space vacuum and solar/galactic radiation. This was a truly historic moment in science. You know, to really put this in perspective, before this whole experiment, the exclusive little club of organisms that we knew could survive open space was limited to some super hardy bacteria and lichens. That's it. But after 2007, an entirely new category had to be added to that list: animals, all thanks to the tardigrade. So, what are the big takeaways from this incredible journey? Well, we learned that the vacuum of space is basically no problem for a tardigrade, and this crazy resilience even extends to their eggs. We learned that solar radiation is just as deadly as we thought.
And most importantly, we learned that somehow, against all odds, a few of these tardigrades have a secret weapon to survive even that.
Which, of course, leads to the billion-dollar question that scientists are still trying to figure out today. How did they do it? How were they possibly able to repair all that catastrophic DNA damage and just reboot their bodies after getting a dose of UV radiation that should have been instantly sterilizing?
And the simple, tantalizing answer is, we don't know. The exact mechanism, whether it's some unique kind of biological shielding or just an unbelievably efficient DNA repair system, remains a complete mystery. A true testament to the incredible, and let's be honest, often bizarre resilience of life. Thanks for watching.